Hi guys, welcome to another online Pieandbelle Art class. Today we're going to be doing this portrait of David Bowie with neon highlighter accents. So once we've done our initial outline, we're going to apply the highlighter. This image works particularly well for this because the highlighter doesn't go over much of his face, which means that the drawing isn't that impaired by putting this on there, because the highlighter does make the paper a little bit more tricky to work on top of with the pencil, so it's a nice picture because it only goes over part of his face. Now it doesn't matter that the colours aren't exact. I've used purple, orange and green instead of red, blue and black. Because it's such a striking image and we know it so well, it works anyway. So I'm literally going to do this whole picture with a 5B. I've done the outline in HB there, but the rest of it I'm just going to work with a 5B. I just wanted to do something a little bit fun and different and use the highlighters that we've used in previous class because I really love the neon colours. I just think they work so lovely with everything that you use them on. So all I'm going to do is start doing the shading I can see, and like I say, when it does get to that, it is a lot harder to work on top of. You can get some sort of markings on there, but it definitely doesn't shade nice and softly like it does on the untouched paper. And all I'm going to do is start getting his actual kind of like facial features in. Once you start getting some of those kind of bits in there, like the kind of shape around his mouth and stuff, you can start seeing that if everything is actually in the right place. I think right near the end, the only thing I need to come back to and sort out is his eyes, because he has got kind of strange kind of parted eyes. His eyes aren't exactly in the same direction, so it's quite a tricky picture to kind of work with because of his eyes being so kind of apart from each other. They're not kind of lined up. So all we're going to do is start kind of building up some of this shading, and I just think this lovely black and white image with this really striking neon lightning strike really works well. So all I'm doing is applying a little bit of the pencil down where I can see the darkest places, and then I'm using the paper stump to spread it out into the more lighter shaded areas. You might need to keep applying, like the reason I started with that little block of hair on the left hand side was so that I could get some product on the paper stump, but you might have to keep doing like darker areas so that you can keep getting more product for your paper stump as you're going along. So obviously doing little bits of his hair will help you out with this. And this is a really nice video to kind of showcase hair again, the way I do hair. So I always fill in the darkest areas of hair first, and then I push the colour into the lighter spots, and sometimes use a bit of rubber if they've got really shiny parts of the hair. And I'll show that as we're going into this. So at the moment I'm just getting kind of basics down. You might keep taking steps back, and also when we get towards the end of this video you'll see me holding the paper up and looking at the paper directly, and that will mean that I can actually see where I'm messing up or where I need to do little bits extra. So all I'm doing is kind of giving myself some of the basic structure. Getting in the basic structure, especially with a paper stump like this, getting in the kind of mid-shade tones means that you get to see the picture a little bit easier, and you can tell whether it's all in proportion or not, rather than just with a pencil image. So this is what I do for hair, is I apply the darkest areas. I'm not really worried too much about the edges right now because I'll come in and sort them out later, but I'm putting in where the hair is the darkest, and then I will pull that colour down, as you can see at the top there, into the rest of the hair and make the lighter where it's being kind of highlighted by the light. He has some real dark areas on the side of his temples there, so I'm going to make sure to get those in. And then where the light bits are on the hair, you just literally strike the pencil over to break it up a little bit. But obviously I'll go a little bit fuller in here. This is a really good bit to show you. So then you put those little stripes over the top just to break up that like light area. And I'll work on it a bit more than that, but that is the real basics of doing hair, is to put in the dark areas first, dark shapes that you can see. You might also see me rubbing my finger over the entire picture like I just did then. If you ever feel like your picture has all the right shadows in the right place but it just looks a little harsh, it's often because you've done the shadows slightly too dark, and the way to resolve that is just run your fingers over them, and when you run your fingers over the top of it, it will just loosen that shadow up a little bit and make it a little bit less striking. So obviously things like that kind of cheekbone shadow I've just put in because he hasn't got his eye in there and stuff, that can look a bit strange to begin with. So this is what I'm talking about. When you start building him up and seeing everything together, you can actually start to kind of figure out whether the shadows are dark enough or whether they need to be lightened up a little bit. He has a very striking face. I think this was a lot of fun to draw him. I just felt like I really wanted to do something with these highlighters again. And I feel like I want to do something in paint with these highlighters again soon as well. I just feel like these work so nicely in art because they're so bright compared to every other colour. So remember when you're doing the little pupil to leave his little shine in there. And to put a little bit of colour in the whites of his eyes, just to give that sense of kind of a roundness. His eyes were probably the most trickiest bit, just because, like I say, he has got like eyes that kind of splay out a little bit. They're not completely aligned, which looks fine in a photo, but for some reason when you're drawing that, it can actually like put you off because you're so used to eyes being lined up that when you're trying to actually get them physically down, it can be quite strange to have eyes that don't match entirely. So it was quite a challenge, but I definitely wanted to do this image of him and use the highlighters because I knew it would work so well. So he also has that kind of eyeshadow going around his eyes, which will make that area a little bit darker as well. Just trying to get some highlights on his lips there. And I'll work a little bit more on his lips as we go through. Definitely need to put a lot more dark where the join is. I didn't have the top of his hair, so I just kind of made it up. I think there are photos of the top of his hair in this style, but to be honest, I just kind of copied what I could see already, that it kind of bunched and then had little random splays going on. And also, when you're doing hair, stop thinking of hairs as individuals when you're trying to do the bulk of hair, because if you tried to draw every individual hair, you'd be there forever. You want to kind of bunch hairs together and then at the end come in and do those individual strokes to kind of make it more like hair. So kind of think of it as colouring an entire block. Obviously when you're doing the edges, you might want to kind of keep more to the pattern of the little individual hairs, but when you're doing the entire kind of lot, you're just kind of blocking it in, and then you're going to make it look more like hair as you're kind of going through. So you can always add on top, but you just want to get that bulk base layer down first. Now I don't usually do such striking kind of lines between teeth, but then he does have his first two teeth, you can see, have a very fine line between them, very soft because they're very close together, but then he does have a definite kind of a gap between his like the first two and the separate two aside. So definitely look at what you're doing with people, especially with teeth, because if you gap them up too much, it can actually make your person look older. But he definitely has gaps on those kind of second teeth that are there. But the first two are very close together, so there's very little kind of, I think I just left it as the original HB line. So I didn't really want to go too crazy with his shoulders and stuff. It was much more about his face, this image, so I did a little bit of kind of smudging down there, but I softened it all out with my fingers quite a lot and just did it quite basic. And just neaten it up with the rubber there. Now his hair is the bit that kind of was a bit of a nightmare bit to do, just because there was so much of it, but you can definitely see how I'm going to start kind of building it up. Now that bit just below those kind of stripy bits there, that bit that's down below that, that's just really dark in the image, so I'm just going to colour that in. But these bits I'm going to try and keep some highlights in, but this whole bit here you can literally just colour that in and soften it all out with the paper stump. Same as this bit here, it's all just very dark in this bit here, so I'm just going to put that all in and then soften it all out. But then it's this front bit where he has lots of different kind of highlighted areas, so what I'm going to do is try and follow the dark bits around. This can be a little bit tricky, but it doesn't have to be exact, it just needs to have some sort of highlights to show that you can tell that it's got a shine on it. You can see now I'm starting to kind of go around the edges of his hair. This is by far the kind of craziest hair that I've had to do around the edges because it's all spiked up and random. But I think I liked the fact that it did have that kind of unkempt little areas of kind of bits that were just flyaway bits everywhere. I think that made it a lot nicer to draw rather than it be like completely lacquered. And don't worry about you crossing over too much, because really you can get rid of all those kind of joins like now with the paper stump. You can kind of merge them all in together. But you can see I'm only taking it right up to near the top, but then I will come in and sort out the top bit. So now I'm taking out the highlights with a rubber, which I'll still work on top of obviously afterwards. It's just that I know he has those real kind of shines right at the front, framing his face. And now we're going to take that around. I'm going to loosen it up with some stripes so that it actually looks like hair and sort out that top bit. And then I'll use the paper stump to kind of soften it all in together a little bit more. Now you will need to apply quite a lot of pressure when you're doing hair, probably a lot more pressure on the hair than I have anywhere else on the face. So you really want to kind of merge them in, but you want to keep those kind of slight stripiness to it so that it looks like hair at the end. And definitely getting those little wispy bits in makes all the difference. So he has quite a lot of mascara on, which I think actually helped me make the eyes pop a lot more, because with guys usually it's quite tricky unless they naturally have very dark eyelashes. I think with the men usually they have quite a lot of eyebrows that help kind of make their eyes pop more. But because he's got like obviously like near to no eyebrows in this picture, it's all about the eyes. Which is why it's nice that he's got that kind of makeup on, helps to pop them out. I mean, this would also look really lovely if you did this picture and then used either felt tips for the lightning flash or even coloured pencils, or even coloured pencils for just his eyes as well. You could do like the eyes with the pale blue. And I think this was where I was getting much more in depth and trying to change the shape of the eyes a little bit just to make them work a little bit better. So you can see every now and again I'm lifting it up and looking at it directly. This is the thing when I do pictures like this for you guys, I'm not right over the top of it, and when I'm trying to get real obvious shapes and kind of things going on, especially with portraits, you're best to work completely on top of it when you get right towards the end. That definitely made all the difference, putting that dark kind of join in his lips and some of the darkness in his lips. And so really now all I'm doing is kind of trying to get any little bits that I feel really kind of help me out. Like here I changed the entire shape of this eye because I feel like it was slightly off. And just checking it and double checking it and just putting little extra bits in. But that's basically it. An entire picture done with just 5B and highlighters. I hope you enjoyed that one, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye!